Long before tractors, fertilizers, or modern gardening books existed, farmers already knew a secret, a quiet technique that kept their soil rich, their harvests reliable, and their villages fed year after year. It wasn't complicated, it didn't require machines, and it cost absolutely nothing. Yet, somehow, as agriculture became more modern, this powerful method slowly disappeared from most gardens. Today, many gardeners struggle with tired soil, stubborn pests, and declining harvests. But in Amish communities and deep inside forgotten medieval farming traditions, this old-world system never vanished. In fact, it may still be one of the most powerful gardening techniques ever used. Centuries ago, farming was not a hobby, it was survival. In medieval villages, a single failed harvest could mean hunger for an entire community. There were no refrigerated trucks bringing food from distant farms, no supermarkets stocked year-round. What grew in the soil around the village was often the only food people had. Farmers had to understand the land in ways modern agriculture rarely demands. They watched the seasons carefully. They studied how the soil behaved after rain, after frost, after years of planting the same crop. Every mistake carried consequences. Over time, these farmers discovered something important. The soil was not an endless resource. If the same crops were grown again and again, the land slowly weakened. Harvests became smaller, plants grew sickly, pests arrived more often. So medieval farmers developed systems designed not just to grow food, but to protect the land itself. These methods were passed down through generations, refined through experience rather than written science. Centuries later, most of the world moved on to machines and chemicals, but some communities chose a different path. Among them were the Amish, people who quietly preserved many of those older farming principles, keeping alive techniques that had once sustained medieval villages for hundreds of years. Today, gardening looks very different. Walk into any garden center, and you'll see shelves filled with solutions: fertilizers for faster growth, sprays for pests, powders for plant diseases, and special soil boosters promising bigger harvests. Modern gardening often relies on adding something new to the soil every season. But beneath all those products, a quieter problem has been growing. The soil itself is getting weaker. When the same crops are planted in the same spot year after year, the ground slowly loses balance. Certain nutrients disappear faster than they can return. The soil structure breaks down. Plants begin to struggle. And when plants struggle, pests notice. Insects find predictable food sources. Diseases spread more easily through identical crops planted in the same place season after season. The usual response is simple: add more fertilizer, spray more treatments, intervene more often. For a while, it works, but over time, the garden becomes dependent on constant help. It's a cycle many modern gardeners know well: more inputs, more effort, and still inconsistent results. Meanwhile, in older farming traditions, the goal was never to control the soil. It was to work with it so the land could quietly restore itself. Medieval farmers didn't rely on one single trick. They followed a quiet system, simple steps that worked together to protect the land. First, they rotated their crops. Instead of planting the same thing every year, fields constantly changed: grain one season, beans the next, vegetables after that. Each crop used different nutrients and returned something back to the soil. The land never became exhausted. Second, they planted legumes regularly. Beans and peas were more than food. Farmers noticed crops growing after legumes always looked stronger. Today we know why. Legumes naturally restore nitrogen in the soil, feeding future plants without chemicals. Third, they let part of the land rest. Every year, a section of the field remained unplanted or was used as pasture. Animals grazed there, naturally fertilizing the ground. By the next season, the soil had quietly rebuilt itself. Finally, they paid attention to timing. Planting and harvesting followed seasonal rhythms, not convenience. Farmers watched the weather, the soil moisture, even the behavior of animals. None of these steps required machines, yet together they created a system where the soil slowly grew richer instead of poorer, a secret the land still understands today. On many Amish farms today, the same quiet logic still guides the land. Fields rarely grow the same crop 2 years in a row. Corn may be followed by beans, then by a year of pasture or hay. Small vegetable gardens follow similar patterns, shifting plants to different rows each season. Livestock also plays a role. Horses and cows graze certain sections, naturally returning nutrients to the soil through manure. Nothing about the process looks dramatic.
But over time, the results become visible. Dark, healthy soil, fewer pest problems, and harvests that remain steady year after year. It is an old rhythm, still quietly working. Medieval farming systems were shaped by one simple reality: survival. Farmers couldn't afford short-term solutions that damaged the land. If the soil weakened, the next harvest and the next winter were at risk. Every decision had to protect the future as much as the present. Modern agriculture often works under different pressures. Speed, efficiency, and higher yields for the current season become the priority. The system rewards quick results, but older farming traditions followed a slower philosophy. They treated soil like an inheritance, something that had to grow stronger over time. And that mindset may be the most valuable lesson these old techniques still offer today. If you want to experiment with this old-world approach, start small. First, rotate your crops. Avoid planting the same vegetable in the same spot every year. Even a simple 3-year rotation can help restore balance to the soil. Second, include legumes. Beans and peas naturally improve soil fertility and prepare the ground for future crops. Third, add a resting period. Leave one section of your garden unused for a season or plant cover crops to rebuild nutrients. Finally, observe your soil. Pay attention to moisture, texture, and plant health. Small adjustments like these can slowly rebuild the living system beneath your garden. The tools of agriculture have changed dramatically over the centuries. Machines are faster, chemicals are stronger, yields can be pushed higher than ever before. But the soil beneath our feet still follows the same quiet rules it did hundreds of years ago. Medieval farmers learned those rules through survival. The Amish preserved them through tradition. And today, modern science is only beginning to rediscover what they already understood. Sometimes progress doesn't mean inventing something new. Sometimes it means remembering something old, a simple rhythm of the land that was never meant to be forgotten.